Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Love to see that you all joined me again. I genuinely appreciate you guys coming back to the channel, really do. Now, before we jump into today's topic, I've said this in other videos, man, what a time it is to be alive. As you can see, I'm enjoying my cup of coffee. I'm on a road trip right now, of course, as you can tell, but funny enough, my hands are not on the wheels, right? And somehow the car is shifting lanes and driving for me. I mean, holy smokes, what a time to be alive. I would have never thought that we would have, I don't want to call it full self-driving cars, but they're almost there, right? We're getting that much closer. So guys, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, especially in today's video, while I enjoy this cup of coffee here, is there's one trait that will make you very successful with money. And might I add, not only just successful with money, but just successful in life. This works in corporate America. This works in your business. I mean, this works with anything, just friendships, you name it. And the one thing that I will tell you is a lot of people don't do this, and that is taking responsibilities. Now, one of the things that I see a lot, and it lacks so much in our society, is folks taking responsibility. And I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about a story in which I had the opportunity to basically not take responsibility for something. Now, if you don't know and you're new to my channel, welcome, love to have you here. But this channel was born out of the lessons learned and so many things that I've gathered in my early 20s. And one of the biggest things that I learned was how to handle money at an early age. And if you don't know, I went into massive amounts of student loan debt and specifically had mortgages for student loans. And if memory serves me correctly, around the tune of $187,000. Fast forward now, 5 years later, in my early 20s, I was able to pay off all my debt, become 100% debt-free, and build a seven-figure portfolio. Now, there was a lot of lessons during that time when I was getting out of debt, building my portfolio, and I just thought it was a miserable time because I thought that everybody was having fun and I wasn't. But I will tell you, the biggest thing that I learned during that time, or one of the biggest, should I say, is taking responsibility, as I mentioned earlier. Now, to give you some perspective and let you guys know what the situation was, back when I was going to college and I was racking up all these student loan debts, thinking that that is the way in which you become successful, I had borrowed money, of course, in order to go to college because I didn't have any, and neither did my parents. And my mother, God bless her, I mean, she's phenomenal. She wanted to make sure that I succeeded, but my mother took a big risk on me, and she didn't even know it at the time. And so I say all that because she was the one who co-signed my student loans for me to be able to go to school. Can you imagine that as a parent? Now that I look back at it, signing for an 18-year-old that they said they have this dream of becoming something, and they take on all this debt, and you co-sign for them in order to see if they make it or not, that is a huge risk that my mother took. And again, you know, God bless her. I don't think she realized at the time, but that could have gone south had I not succeeded. And so the thing that I wanted to explain to you guys is, especially if you don't know how student loans work, or just loans in general, whenever you co-sign for a loan, that is equivalent to you are taking the loan out for yourself. You're 100% on the hook for that, whether that person pays for it or not. And there's a lot of mistakes that I always see people make when it comes to finances. And I coach a lot of people. And the one story that I hear all the time is somebody's co-signed for somebody else. And it saddens me because usually what happens is the person that they co-sign for, they don't take responsibility, they don't end up paying the bill, and so the person who co-signed is the one who happens to take on the responsibility afterwards and pay it back because, of course, you are on the hook. And by the way, guys, if you are interested in some of those coaching calls, I'll leave a link in the description. So as I mentioned, right, my mother signed for my student loan, she co-signed, and off I went to college, hoping to, you know, land the big dream job of becoming an engineer. And I'll tell you what, it ended up working out in the end because I, of course, applied myself and wanted to make sure that I did hit this goal. So when I graduated and got my engineering job and I was making the big bucks as I thought back then, that was the first time I had ever experienced any money whatsoever, meaning more than the average person is used to seeing. And the first thing that I said to myself was, you know what, I'm successful. I really should reward myself with a brand new car. So isn't it interesting how even when you have other responsibilities, such as paying back your student loans, somehow you still start making more money and you think that those responsibilities are not there anymore and you can just go and do whatever you want with the money. And especially in my case, I thought I was going to go buy a brand new car. But fast forward a little bit, and if you watch my channel more and you see some of my videos, you'll realize that I came to the very, very, very quick realization that a new car was not in my future anytime soon, because I had a lot of student loans to pay back. And again, I believe it was to the tune of $187,000, and it was growing every day because of the interest that was accumulating. So one of the first things that I decided to do once I came to the epiphany that I was basically a broke college student all over again is I decided to tackle my student loans accordingly, and I listed them out. And it was interesting because the ones that were co-signed by my mother, those were the loans that I decided to tackle first. Even though they didn't have the highest interest, and even though they might not have been the biggest balance or the smallest balance, whatever the case it was, right? My first objective was to cover the student loans that were under my mother's name. So the reason why I decided to tackle the student loan under my mother's name, and especially because I wanted to take responsibility and remove the risk that is associated with her. And you may be asking, well, what risk is there? Let's say, for example, God forbid, during that time, I were to pass away or something happened to me and I was no longer able to work and pay those student loans back. It does not matter whether you die or whatever the case might be, your co-signer, in this case, my mother, was still responsible. And so imagine you getting the big dream job and you're making all the big bucks, as you currently say, and you had somebody who doesn't make nearly as much as you co-signing for your loans. If something were to happen to me and I lose a job or I'm no longer around, that person is still responsible for paying your student loans. And it even gets to the point where the government has pretty much unlimited power and they can garnish your wages. So imagine that your parents, and specifically in my case, my mother, try to do what was best for her child and giving her child the opportunity, and then your child goes and doesn't take responsibility on their end to pay back the student loans, and now you're stuck with it. And whether the child had good intentions or not, but what happens if that child passed away unexpectedly? You're still stuck with the student loans, unfortunately. And so I couldn't bear to live with myself knowing that I have left that responsibility on my mother, knowing that the intention was to give her child a better future. So I remember that it took me 2 years of living on rice and beans and doing nothing in order to pay back all the student loans under my mother's name. And that was, I believe, to the tune around $60,000. So every single year I would save around $30,000, and I made this one giant payment where it got rid of all the student loans, all $60,000. And I got rid of everything under her name. And it was pretty incredible because I remember I called her and I said, hey mom, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and allowing me to go to school. But more importantly, there's a lot of lessons that I learned along the way. I saw what your intentions were, and I think they were good. But as well, if I'm being frank, it was a very risky play for you. I think that there was better ways in which we could have tackled that situation. But more importantly, I learned, and now I can take that information and give it to you guys. But as I mentioned, guys, there's been a lot of folks that I've coached, and you would be shocked to find out how many people, either their parents co-signed or they were a co-signer, and I coach them through these calls, and then I figure out that they have all this debt because they, are on the hook for a car, credit cards, you name it. It's just wild to me. I'm hoping that whoever watches this video understands that if you want to be successful with money, you really have to start taking responsibility for your actions. And specifically, I just gave you the example of how I took out $60,000 under my mother's name in order to go to school just so I can become successful. Now, the money that I invested in my brain, and of course, I've made that well over, a couple folds by now, and it was a very good investment, although I definitely could have done it a lot less. But at the same time, too, I don't think I would have learned all the financial knowledge that I have today had I not gone through it. But again, you have to take responsibility so that way you can be successful with money, and not just with money, but also as well your career, your relationships, and anything in this world. Taking responsibility and owning up to your mistakes or owning up to whatever it is that you have to take care of will absolutely make you responsible as a human being, but more importantly, very successful, because people will remember that. So you want to know how I know you'll be very successful? In this world, you only have one name and one name only. And I'll tell you what, people will talk about you whether you know it or not, even within your own family. And the reason why I know this is because there have been times where I will go visit family, or I will, obviously go for the holidays. And this was, of course, back, when I was paying off my student loans. And people will comment and say, hey, Lewis, good for you. You were able to pay back your student loans, and especially under your mom's name. Your mother is so proud of the responsibility that you took, and she's so proud of the man that you're becoming because you are capable of doing so much more than you know. And it was interesting to me because I said to myself at the time when they were telling me this, how do you know that? And of course, people talk, and especially within your own family. And so you start to build this reputation. And if your reputation is, hey, this person can't be trusted, they left me high and dry, where do you think you're going to go with that type of reputation? Now, in the other case, if people say, hey, that is a responsible guy, he gets his work done, he really can be trusted, you'll be shocked at how many other opportunities come your way. Now, that also can backfire on you too. I've experienced that as well, where I've had family members hear, holy smokes, like this guy paid off 60 grand in 2 years. How much money is he making? Do you think I can borrow some from him? Now, that is an interesting situation to be in, and you don't want to entertain that. But we can talk about that in another video. So that'll do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you learned something from my experience. Hopefully you gained some knowledge. And more importantly, I hope that you all are taking responsibility in your life. Whether it may seem like it sucks at the time, I'm telling you, it's going to make you who you're meant to be. I can't tell you how many times I'm very thankful for the lessons that I learned in my early 20s. And I'm very, very thankful for the work that I did back then, because your future is nothing but all the decisions you've made in your past. And your life is just a culmination of all those decisions. So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below. Does this resonate with you at all? So sound off in the comments, and I look forward to reading them. So I got to head back home, guys. Thanks for being here with me. Thanks for watching. I love you all. I appreciate you guys. And if this video has helped you out at all, make sure you give me a like for the video, as it helps the channel grow. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified whenever I upload new videos to the channel. And share this video with a family member or friend, especially the ones who need to learn how to be responsible. Maybe by them watching this video, they'll learn about what responsibility is, and they will go ahead and take care of their responsibilities. Because if I can do it, anybody can do it. All right, guys, love you all. I appreciate you, and I'll see everybody in the next one.